leading edge. So she'll be talking about her company tonight, her background, her history, how she's helped startup companies and early stage ventures before. Please think about where you're at in your own paths to entrepreneurship. Even if you don't even know how to spell entrepreneurship, I still struggle with it. It's okay. Don't worry. I know that the word entrepreneurship can be a little bit scary at times, especially as non-business students. Believe me, this is a myth. This is all gone now. Anybody can be an entrepreneur. You don't have to be an entrepreneur, you can be an entrepreneur. You can just be interested in making really cool things and having a target market. Guess what? That's entrepreneurship. So I will let Anne share her story and talk about her, her journey and her help to all these startups and early stage ventures. And without further ado, if it's 6 o'clock, I'm turning over the microphone, Dustin. All right, please welcome Anne Dellos, everybody.
Thank you. Oh, that's all right. Thank you. So a lot of engineering students and one social media student, right? Okay, now, is everybody here aiming to be an entrepreneur? Are you all planning to start a company at some point? Some of you don't know? All right, so I'm kind of going to focus a little bit my comments on startups. I will address, I'll give you some examples from small, medium businesses and also some examples from corporate, which is a world I was in many, many years ago, but still good for typically the bad examples. No, I'm kidding. So I'm gonna try to make this as practical as possible for you. And really, the way I like to think about this is this is Anne's primer on what you need to know as future business leaders about lead generation. So, and I kind of am going to use the word marketing and lead generation a little bit interchangeably, but when I'm talking about it, just understand that for me, if marketing isn't generating revenue, it's not doing its job. So that's really my mantra throughout this. So let me start with a quick introduction. And I'm going to kind of come back to this. It's a trick. So, my quick introduction. I like to sing, I like to play golf, and I like to hike with my dog. Okay? That's me. I always like to personalize it a little bit. I'm not just some, marketing person. I'm a real person. Now, here's another introduction that I could give to myself. I do public relations and media promotions to help my clients to generate awareness. So another one of my mantras is, sometimes I hesitate because it's kind of, I'm going to tell you things that this is not what you would learn in Marketing 101. So this is Anne's view of the world, just so you're aware. Anne's view of the world is advertising sometimes works, but it's so much more effective to get other people to tell the world how great you are than for you to tell the world how great you are. So advertising I could talk about specific situations where I might use advertising, but let's focus right now on public relations and media relations, because that to me is what's important in terms of telling your story, telling your company's story. And it's actually not that difficult to create a story. So here's a company that I worked with, Global Marine Systems. Small company, good size revenues, but not a huge amount of personnel, all engineers, not a focus on marketing. And they kind of presented themselves as a nerdy little engineer company. Their website said, we're a 155-year-old company that installs subsea cable networks. So if any of you, and this is kind of cool for the engineers, if you know what subsea cable networks are, these are the fiber optic networks that link across the oceans that carry 95, maybe 98% of the world's data communications. So this company that sees itself as kind of this little nerdy company with some highly specialized equipment when they brought me on in a lead generation role, one of the things I did was, of course, work on their messaging. So that message, we're a 155-year-old company, that's nice, that's established, that's a company that really knows what it's doing. But what is it doing for its customer? What's its story? How is it a cool company? So I started to recreate a message for this company, and that message was essentially, we got some awesome vessels, and we can both install and protect you, the telecom carrier, your investment in your subsea fiber optic cable. Now, one of the reasons the company had hired me was because they wanted to expand into the oil and gas market. What was their story for the oil and gas market? Essentially, it was, if you've got an offshore oil platform and you're flying your data once a week back to the shore, back to your headquarters, we could connect a cable so that you've got real-time data analysis capability at your onshore facilities. So that's kind of a cool concept. So then what I did was I called BBC. And I said, so we've got this really cool company. It's 155 years old. It's a nerdy little engineering company, and we've got some kind of cool ships and some really cool equipment on those ships. The guy in the middle is a BBC host. He brought a film crew out, and they did one of the series of mighty ships was on one of the global marine vessels. So that was a really nice way to get someone else to tell the world our story. So my point with this is, when you start your company, be interesting. Create your story. You might think your company's the nerdiest company on earth. You might not see what you do for your customers. Every company, I have yet to find a company, no matter how boring their product was or their service was, I've yet to find a company that doesn't have a story. So my point then, with this slide, this is all about me, right? I'm not telling any of you how much I know about marketing and lead gen with this slide. It's a pretty slide, but it's not my story. It is when I tell you that picture over there is when I took over the microphone at my friend's wedding in Cyprus and sang a little Greek folk song. Still not telling you what I'm doing for you, am I? But I'm creating a story. The picture in the middle, that's my brother and my partner Leo, and we're at a golf course in Indonesia. Am I starting to become a little more interesting? I'm a world traveler. The other one is in Phoenix. That's me walking my dog. So now let me tell you a little bit more of my story. I spent 20 years in Singapore. I just moved back to the States a year ago. I have worked with startup companies and small and medium-sized companies for the past 12 years. And before that, I was in the corporate world with AT&T and Tyco. Prior to that, I went to Thunderbird. Before that, I was an intelligence officer with the Central Intelligence Agency. So all of that is starting to tell my story. All of that is starting to give you some indication that I'm probably smart. I probably am able to talk to people pretty easily, and I've helped a lot of companies to be successful. That's my story. And I have good knowledge of international business. So, and I've been featured on some news channels talking about telecommunications, talking about undersea fiber optic cables. So now, when it comes to telling your story, and I mentioned to you the Global Marine website. So what I did then with the Global Marine messaging was to create a statement of customer benefits on this website. So I'm just going to read one to you, the fleet. Global Marine's been installing cables since the 1800s. I still like that message because that message shows me how established they are. Our ships have changed, but our passion for the business hasn't. That's pretty compelling. You start to see, so, fleet is what they do. The other messages are very much focused on, for oil and gas solutions and ensuring the quality and longevity of your subsea cable investment. So that's what Global Marine provides, but focus on your customer with your story. Now, marketing for lead generation. Can you all read that? I hate sales. Can you cross-train me to be an engineer? Dilbert says, absolutely. All you need is a time machine and a brain with twice as many folds as your current model. And the guy says, maybe I could try marketing. And Dilbert says, that's just liquor and guessing. So I'm not going to lie to you. Part of marketing is guessing. Sometimes we don't know all the answers. But sometimes part of strategy is guessing too. Sometimes every part of business, sometimes product development is guessing, right? Sometimes you have to trust your intuition. And if you question your own intuition, you gotta have a group of good, solid advisors. And hopefully you could trust their intuition. So yeah, sometimes I guess. Sometimes I don't know the answer. Sometimes trying to figure out who the target market is really tough. Sometimes trying to figure out whether to advertise is really tough. So, yeah, sometimes I guess. So I'm just going to stop there real quick, because I've talked about messaging, and messaging is always one of my critical items. Messaging is lead generating. When you have the right message for your customers or your prospects, that helps you to generate leads. And it's certainly critical for websites. And I'm amazed at how many websites still to this day miss the messaging for their customers in favor of talking about themselves. So, any comments, any questions so far? Okay. So now I'm going to give you a couple of my pet peeves. Market research, Delbert says, as it turns out, every user we talked to was an idiot, and their dumb suggestions ruined our product. Another quote I really like is Henry Ford, who said, if I'd listened to my customers, I would have built a faster horse. So market research, I am not a huge fan of, as you might be able to tell. Again, nothing I say here, you can't hold me to it 100% of the time. I can see places where market research is important. I have done market research for my clients, but primary research where I'm actually in the field talking to prospective customers, and for a very specific purpose, and making sure that I'm talking to the correct customers for that purpose. So yes, I have done it, but in general, I'm going to caution you that it's like statistics. There are so many different definitions of what you find in your research that it can be very dangerous for you. So I'm back to trust your intuition. Hi there. All right. This is another one of my pet peeves. I'll get through my pet peeves really quickly, but these are important things for you to be aware of as far as I'm concerned. Digital marketing. I know you're in social media. What I say might offend you. No, actually, I don't think it will. Essentially, my message here is, if it's marketing, it's digital. It drives me nuts to see job titles that are marketing and digital marketing. If you're marketing, you are digital. There is no such thing as marketing without digital. Now, I'll give you an example. At Global Marine, I created content for a publication. And that content was, of course, addressing part of what Global Marine does, but it was a story about the undersea fiber optic world. So once that was printed, so that's traditional marketing. That's a print publication that I've created content for. Now what am I going to do with that content? I'm going to post it on our website. I'm going to use it across our social media platform. I'm probably going to include it in a presentation somewhere, back to traditional marketing, face-to-face. I'm going to make sure the CEO does some sort of a, hey, check this out, people, we were mentioned in this publication. So I'm going to use that across the full marketing spectrum. If I'm separating or siloing traditional marketing from digital marketing, how is that going to happen? And how's it going to happen immediate time frame? So my point with this slide is forget digital and traditional. All marketing today is digital, right? Do you agree? Okay, so I didn't offend you. It was just sort of a statement of the obvious, wasn't it? All marketing is digital. All right? And marketing can be traditional as well as digital, but you can't separate them. So future business leaders, do not have a marketing title and a digital marketing title, please, for me. And if you do, just know that I'm going to be upset with you. Okay. Now, any questions about any of that? Am I answering the right questions? Am I giving you the right information? We can change direction if we need to. So, okay. All right, I'm getting nods. You guys are shy. All right. Did you know 60% of companies have marketing teams that operate in separate silos from sales teams? Wow, that's kind of fun to say. Separate silos from sales teams. And 80% have no connection between marketing and product teams. So I'm going to tell you a story. Oh, now I know what my story was. When I worked for Tyco, when I first moved to Singapore, I was working Asia Pacific regional role in business development with a sales team. Marketing in the US did a major rebrand of Tyco submarine systems, the specific group I was in. So this was a over $1 million rebrand. Several months, probably 6 months in process. They hadn't really mentioned any of it to me until I received delivery of the new branding materials. Hard copy, actual boxes they sent us. So there are new brochures, new letterhead, you know, pretty much everything across the board. The website had been changed, everything happened at once. I looked at these new materials and they're really hot looking. Across the bottom of the brochures and the folders, sales folders, and across the bottom there's a ticker tape. So it was sort of bringing Tyco Submarine Systems into, you know, the current day and also focusing on that financial market that has the need for real-time, mission-critical data communication capability. So a good target for the company. Across that ticker tape were numbers. The number 4 featured prominently. Does anybody here know what the number 4 means in the Chinese culture? Death, precisely. So we think about the number 13 in America, that, you know, that's an unlucky number. But there are plenty of people in America who would say, oh, 13's my lucky number. Number 4 is nobody's lucky number in Asia, well, in Chinese-speaking Asia. So, and China at the time was our largest market. So we looked at these materials, and we said to the sales team, can you change the number, or to the marketing team, can you change the number 4 to a number 8, right? Number 8 is a good number in Asia. And the marketing team said, no, we just spent $1 million on this. And I'm like, look, I'm just saying, for the next print, just change those numbers. Nope. And I said, okay, well, my sales team won't use this marketing material. And the response was, oh, come on, just tell the Chinese speakers to get over themselves. And I'm like, you know, I will take on a lot of things, but 2,000 years of history I am not up to that. So that was what we had, and we did not use those materials. That was a major disconnect between marketing and sales. And how easy would it have been to simply say, here's our prototype, what do you guys think? How easy would that have been? But that didn't happen. So things like that, and that's kind of a, you know, that doesn't really hurt anything major. It was an expense, but it is, to me, a good example of the disconnect. Now, I've got examples of the disconnect between marketing and product also. When I was in marketing, before I went to Asia, I worked for an AT&T Bell Labs group. And Bell Labs had developed a new product. And they needed the marketing biz dev team to create a market for that product, highly technical product. So we went out and it took a year. It took a year and $1 million for us to create a market for this product. At the time I went back, and we shared, by the way, the product team and the biz dev team, marketing biz dev, shared a vice president. When I went back to the team 6 months later, a year later, they informed me that they'd canceled that product development 6 months before. So that message never got to me. I was, by the way, in, where was I? Nice places. Oh, Barcelona. I was developing a market all over the world. It was one of the funnest jobs ever. And, you know, unfortunately, they neglected to tell me that they'd canceled that product development. So I had a great time, but when that was over, I kind of felt like I needed to go to another company because that wasn't really working for me. So a couple of examples of how we can't separate silos. And it's really not that hard. I understand that marketing and sales and product and IT and all those groups within companies have to have ways of working independently, but it cannot be that difficult. And I have seen it work where those groups meet together on an every other day or at least once a week basis to share information. It can work. It's just that that's a tried and true model, and I think, you know, people are just too lazy to change it. So that's my other message. Change that model. All right, now I'm going to introduce you really quickly to, it's a little boring even for me, but the sales funnel. I think everyone needs to have an understanding of the sales funnel. So the sales funnel is essentially developing awareness, interest, consideration, intent, evaluation, and purchase. There are a couple of things that are missing from this funnel as far as I'm concerned, and I'm going to get to those. But what I want you to know is awareness to me is a marketing role. That's your traditional, and when I say traditional, I don't mean versus digital, just your traditional when you think marketing. That's marketing's role. The next four, interest, consideration, intent, and evaluation, those are lead generation roles. Those are getting people to come in and say, yes, I'm interested. All right? Some people would call that pre-sales. I call that lead gen because it's more active than pre-sales. Pre-sales is sort of a support role for sales. Lead generation is a very active role that says, let's develop pipeline. Sales team, we've got 10 hot leads. You go get them. I'll bring the leads in. So that's how lead gen works. That's what you need to know. The sales funnel is a tool. It's just kind of an easy visual to understand how this process works. Now, one of the things that isn't addressed in that sales funnel is delivery, and it doesn't belong in the sales funnel. However, when I work with a client, the first thing I ask them before I agree to work with them is, what's your delivery process? Do you deliver what you say you will deliver when you say you will deliver it? Because if I'm generating leads and sales is selling and there isn't a delivery process, it does nobody any good. There's no revenue that's gonna, at least, there might be one-time revenue, but there's no recurring revenue. Acquiring a customer is way more expensive than keeping a customer. So delivery has to work. Right there with delivery is referral programs. And this, Dilbert, is, I'm a believer in referral programs, but Dilbert, or the other guy, says, our goal is to ship 1 million units this quarter. Do we have any goals that involve making customers happy? I'm talking about our goals, not their goals, totally different. So this is the referral process. What we need to be talking about is our customers' goals. What we need to make sure that we're doing for our customers is helping them achieve their goals. So the way that I look at the sales funnel is to add on here customer care, referral programs, testimonials. Help me help you to generate more and more leads by creating that follow-on program. And that, by the way, is a marketing lead generation program. While delivery is not, I wouldn't touch a delivery process. I just like to make sure it's there and effective. Delivery is not, but customer care, referral program, and testimonials, that's all things I do. I love being involved in those things. Acquiring a customer is way more expensive than keeping a customer. Way more expensive and way harder. So what I do is I shorten the sales cycle. That's by handling, oops, oh no, that's right. I shorten the sales cycle by handling that interest, consideration, intent, and evaluation. I reduce the cost of sales by looking at that customer care referral program and testimonials. Those are two critical items that I'm doing. What's the third? I can't remember it. Shorten the sales cycle. Reduce the cost of sales. Increase conversions. Help sales to sell. Make sure that our customers are signing. Usually I just throw a pen at someone that's, no, I'm kidding. Throwing a pen at someone. A wise salesman once told me that the first step to getting a contract signed is getting the pen in their hand. So, you know, a little harder today when everyone's on their computers, but if I had a pen right now and I let it fall toward you, you'd catch it and I've got the pen in your hand. You're like practically mine by then. I loved that theory. Never really worked for me, but I liked the theory. All right. So a couple of other things that I do that are part of the lead gen. Oh, first, this is a good break time. Any questions? All clear? Are you learning stuff about marketing and lead gen? Anne's view of marketing and lead gen? I'm not lying to you too much, only a little. Okay, so partnerships, another area that I really, really like. So I wanted to just introduce you to it, make sure you're aware of it. Partnerships are really effective. They can significantly reduce your cost of sales. If you find a partner who has a sales team who's selling a product that is similar but not competitive to yours, use them as a channel. Develop an agreement with them where anything they sell, they take a percentage of, or something you can do. There's loads of different win-win scenarios for this, and that's a whole negotiation class. But negotiating a partnership agreement has got to be a win-win, and it always is, because you want those partners and they want you. So partners are really critical to reducing your sales cycle and improving your conversion rate, hopefully. All right? So that's really all I wanted to say about partners. Oh, and then the other one is face-to-face communications. I am a huge believer in speaking at conferences, in speaking at trade shows, in going to conferences and trade shows. What I'm not a believer in is boondoggles. So to me, if you're looking at a conference, if I were going to recommend a CEO speak at a conference, I would look at who's the audience. And I'm not looking at here's where all of our competitors go. I'm looking at, like in that oil and gas scenario, there was a specialized field within oil and gas that we thought might present a whole bunch of customers for us. I found that conference where those guys were. And my goal was, we need 3 qualified leads before we leave this conference. We're up in Stavanger, Norway. In the summer, happily. So there was lots of light. But Stavanger, Norway, 3 qualified leads before we leave this conference, and we got them. And it was, everyone in the company was like, oh, we never would have thought of attending this conference. Well, exactly. You attend the conferences where all of your competitors are attending. That's a crazy approach Find the conferences and the trade shows where your customers or your prospective customers are attending, and set goals for that attendance. Now, when I say 3 qualified leads for a company like Global Marine, this is a company that does maybe, 2 or 3 sales a year. This isn't, so if you're looking at consumer market, that's a very different number, obviously, and what I'm talking about is much more on a B2B basis, business to business basis. But anyway, face-to-face, absolutely critical to the sales process and critical to the lead generation process. Okay? That's kind of obvious, but I don't know if it is. I see even a lot of CEOs who kind of like their salespeople to kind of sit back and send emails, and that is really not the way to create sales, as far as I'm concerned, in a B2B environment. All right. Any questions now? So, I should actually look and see if there's any questions before I turn around. No questions? Okay. In closing, you don't reward marketing for revenue? Tell me again how aligned your marketing and sales teams are. Create a commission program for marketing that is similar to what you create for your sales teams. And if you've got a marketing team that doesn't want that, marketers are scared of that. Marketers are will say, wait, hang on, what about that pretty brand, that picture that we've developed? Great, but how are you generating revenue? Make sure that your marketing teams are tied to revenue. Can anyone see how branding is tied to revenue? Let's talk about branding for a second. Is branding tied directly to revenue? Yeah, it is. A lot of times. Sometimes not so much, but a lot of times it is. Having a brand is important in B2B as well as B2C. In the consumer market, do you all know B2B and B2C? Consumer versus business to business. So in the consumer market as well as in the business market, yeah, a brand's important. Can you all see how a website, that's an easy one. Websites obviously are tied directly to revenue. Yeah. So, a marketing organization that doesn't have a direct link to revenue, they're not getting it. They're not going to pay attention. They're not going to pay attention to the sales team, let alone the company strategy. So tie them to revenue. And that other picture on the right, that's my sales process picture. I don't know why I included that. I think it was just with marketing tied to sales, you move your process in the right direction. How's that work for you? I don't know. I have no idea why I included that picture. I just wanted to do this at the end. Okay, so that's my, sales, make it go forward, I guess. I don't know. Anyway. All right, so that is the end of my presentation. Gosh, I guess I could have gone on and on and on, huh? Anything else you want to know about? Anything else you want Anne's view of the world on?
I just have,
because we're on video. So.
I just have one question. How did you get started, like, in your whole career process? Because you've gone all these different places, and I'm interested in going all these different places.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
How did you start?
Okay. Well, when you want to go all different places, it's really easy to start because pick one and then just change it after a while. It's not that hard. Pick whatever looks good and then see where you go from there. And one thing I will say is I had someone the other day say to me that he was struggling to find a job because he was sort of a generalist. He had worked in a lot of different areas and for different companies, similar to what I have done. And I said to him, don't you ever apologize for having the wealth of knowledge that you generate by working for a variety of companies in a variety of roles. The world today, as far as I'm concerned, especially in America, not so much the world. In America, we're very focused on, I'm a product manager, and therefore I am going to take all the product management. Here is my line. This is my career path right here. That's crazy. Think about everything you're missing. Think about how you could understand the sales process and the marketing process and everything else that happens in a company. Think about how entrepreneurial you could be when you get all that different background. So, yeah, don't be afraid of it, and start somewhere. Pick a place that looks good. That's what I did. Picked a place that looked good, and that's exactly what I'm still doing today. How's that? I'm walking through because someone's going to ask me a question. Yes, my darling social media person.
I had a question about, obviously, social media.
Are you talking into this microphone?
I'm talking into the microphone. I had a question about, do you think that that's the way that marketing is going to go? Because there's no cost involved. When you're talking about doing a startup, there's that very famous family where one of them just sold like $10 million worth of makeup in 4 days without spending one dime on marketing. So I just find it curious that, there's so many companies that have $1 million advertising and marketing budgets. Do we see it going towards social media?
Yeah. I don't have any problem with the fact that marketing and getting word out there has become significantly less expensive than it used to be. Television ads to me are crazy. I watch an ad, I remember it. I remember the scene in the ad. Do I know what car company that was? Heavens no. So, yeah, I'm okay with it. Even from a business to business perspective, LinkedIn is a very strong tool for me in companies that I'm helping to launch or expand. So LinkedIn is a great tool from a B2B perspective. I think from a consumer-oriented perspective, you've got a lot of other tools. LinkedIn just happens to be my go-to for B2B, for lead generation on a B2B perspective. I don't think that will marketing sort of ever be replaced. Let's think about that. By straight social media.
Because back in the day, newspapers were basically your only way of getting the news. And for advertising or looking for a job, that's not the case anymore. So now we're looking more online, especially for jobs, for purchasing consumer goods. We see stores and malls closing, entire malls shutting down. So I just thought the next step would be advertising and marketing budgets decreasing and putting it more focus on social media, all those different platforms that we have.
I think from a consumer-oriented side, first of all, I think that'll never happen. If a company has enough money to advertise, they're going to still advertise. But the cool companies are going more and more to advertising and selling on the digital basis. In a business-to-business, in a B2B world, I think about, I've got to think about the whole marketing mix. That includes that face-to-face stuff, conferences, trade shows. That includes any sort of print messaging. Print messaging I could live without, honestly. But the conferences and trade shows I couldn't. So that, in my mind, will never go away on a B2B side. I think, already a lot of the messaging I do is using digital publications that I can directly link right back into my own website. I love links. Links are awesome. If you want to drive traffic into a website, get partners and push links. So yeah, those are really nice ways of marketing that are extremely inexpensive, obviously. Still, when it's digital, even if it's advertising, you're still paying, but it's not nearly as expensive as print ad. So yeah, I could see print advertising slowly working its way out of the market. I'd hate to hope none of my advertising friends are watching this. They would disagree vehemently, I'm sure. But, advertising people are sort of, I don't know, I think they might be a little behind the times, honestly. So I think you're right, though. I think from a consumer perspective, a lot of it will continue to go digital, and it won't come back. I wouldn't mind not having any TV commercials, too. What do you think? I'd be okay with that. What do you guys think? Give me your view on that question. Will it go digital? What do you think?
I think it will go digitally, yes. Especially with like VR and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yep.
All completely, 100%.
Oh, no, not 100% ever. No.
Why not?
Because conferences, you like conferences.
Oh, well, because of conferences. Okay, but consumer oriented? Could it?
Like
Selling to consumers?
I don't think it'll ever go 100% digital.
Okay.
But it'll get close, probably.
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I have similar opinion too. Like, it can grow and it has a lot of potential as of now, but maybe there'll be a point of saturation. So there cannot be more computers or more mobile phones than there are human beings on this planet. I mean, each one can have one phone and that's all. So there has to be a point of saturation. After that, people will be talking to each other, and maybe there will not be more growth in the field that we are seeing it now. So maybe the graph of growth might get saturated at some point of time.
So I think I understand what you're saying. You're saying that as we get to saturation of devices, that we run out of what? How does that affect advertising? Can't we still advertise on those devices?
No, it's not like that. It's like the rise of growth that we are seeing it today, that might not be similar in the future. Maybe there'll be some more advanced mechanisms, or yeah, maybe just telepathy and you're trying your customers to attract. Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll move to telepathy after we finish with social. I like that. By the way, I just want to point out that in countries in Asia, Singapore is one of them, Korea is another, saturation of smart devices is at 120% or even 150%. So that means that a lot of users have 2 phones. So yeah, I love that saturation level of above 100%. I just think that's remarkable. We must be pretty close in America. I don't know this. I don't know.
Saturation also means cell phone, tablet, laptop?
No, well, in this case, this was strictly a measurement of cell phone, smartphone. So smartphone, not cell phone, smartphone. But it was not including tablets or anything. It was just saying that over 100% of the population has a phone. So obviously, not everyone in the population has a phone, but multiple people have 2 phones. So at least I think not everyone in the population. Maybe they do. I don't know. All right. Anything else? Do we have anyone online who's asking any questions? Hello, online people. Are you asking questions? They're not?
We just have like one person online, but I have a question myself.
Yeah, okay.
We talked about personal branding before. How would you say to build your personal brand? Like, what would you think is a good way?
I think there are loads of good ways to build your personal brand. Social media is a great way to start building your personal brand. You've got inexpensive, very easy, blogs and just a presence on social media. Start developing your presence on social media. That helps you develop your brand. Then look at, is there a radio show that I might contribute to? Radio shows are a great way to get started also, believe it or not, because first of all, they're a whole lot easier than TV. Nobody can see you, so all you have to do is speak as opposed to both speaking and looking up at the same time. I don't know. It's easier than TV. I once had a radio show that was a telecommunications radio show. And I invited people telecom leaders throughout the world and it was all digital, it was all online, and I would just interview them. And it was done with there was a guy, actually I think he still has a radio program called Scott Drawn, and he's a technology lawyer. So that's how it all started, and it was through Scott's program. But I had a very popular radio show interviewing telecom nerds, I was going to say, but business leaders. It wasn't exciting, really, but it was a radio show that got a lot of listeners. So yeah, you can start building your brand, and then you just promote yourself, and you really create your brand. So that's one way. But I think, back then, blog didn't exist. So if I had a blog capability, I'm not sure I would have, well, I still would have done the radio show just because I liked it. It was fun. But I have a face for radio. That's what I always say. Anyway, I loved the radio show. But, blogging is great. Anything is great. Get content out there. Create a website, get content out there, and, push it all to your website. And at least you could impress your friends, and it will pick up. You'll be amazed. Public speaking is also great. Anytime you get a chance, do it. Do it. It gets easier. If you're scared of it to start with, it does get easier. I think. I don't know. I love a microphone. Next, I'll start singing for you, so be careful. Yes, sir. Do you have a question? Yeah. Let me bring you the microphone. I know, they won't be able to see me because I can't. Oh, that's all right.
So you talked a lot about building your own brand a lot, but the sales funnel might be new to a lot of people in here. So how do I phrase this? What would be some good do's and don'ts for trying to build up that brand and kind of get that momentum going?
Okay, do's and don'ts for building up your personal brand or a company brand? Yeah, probably they're both the same. The do is be interesting. And, we can do a little, we could check with someone here. If you've got, if you want to tell me, you want to start and tell me, what you think is interesting about yourself, and we can help you expand on it if you'd like. Do you want to try that? It might be kind of a fun little exercise. Does that make you nervous? Okay, tell us. So let's play with this a little bit. Let's see what we could do with your brand.
So it's not really a product.
You better start with your name and information. Give us start with you a little bit.
Okay. So my name is Samira. I'm a sophomore studying computer systems. I'm really into art a little bit. So what I mostly do is I do digital art. I do photography, just all different kinds of stuff. And I'm kind of trying to expand into 3D modeling. So I think one of my issues is I don't know which one to focus on. But yeah, because I'm I know a little bit of each, but I don't know how to or I don't know which one I should focus on.
So you feel like you have to choose one to be an expert in it as opposed to playing with all three of them?
Yeah.
Okay. So what if we started with playing with all three of them? How can we make you interesting by playing with three different types of, say it again, graphic art?
Digital art, which is kind of just sketches.
Okay.
And then 3D modeling and also photography.
Okay. Photography, like traditional photography or digital?
Yeah, actual photography.
Okay. All right. So you've got three different mediums that you're looking at. So, start with one and start building your interesting story around it. If it's photography, I don't know, there are loads of photography sites out there, websites, there's get some images post it on some of those sites. Start sending images to every website you can find and get one or two posted on those sites. That starts to make you interesting right there, right?
Yeah.
Gives you a story to tell. I'm on Magnum's site, I'm on Getty's site, I'm on National Geographic's site. That starts to be a story. That starts to tell me you've got talent, skill, passion for photography. And then you can even write some articles about it. You could take a photograph and give us an article about where you were when you took it, why you took it, how it made you feel, how you want it to make others feel. Yeah? Give us your story. Tell us how it becomes interesting to us. Make it interesting to us. And you can certainly do that with any of those.
So do you think it's, or do you recommend that I just focus on, or not focus on one specifically, just do all three? Or
Yeah, okay. For that, you have to ask someone other than me. Look, as you can see by my background, I like to be a generalist. I like to be good, but at a lot of things. So, yeah, I'm probably not the right person to ask. I say do everything. I say try it all. I say go everywhere. But, I think you have to, to start with, if I were going to counsel you on this, to start with, you should try all three. And either one's going to stick out to you as, oh my gosh, this is where I really create something. This is where my passion is. Or you're going to enjoy all three, in which case, be good at all three. Why not?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does that help? Does anyone have anything to add on the story, on creating the story?
I was gonna ask, why did you even have to pick one? Why can't you do all three?
See?
I mean, I wrote it down. It all sounds interesting. And then I would recommend, since you're into the arts, when you decide to get it going, is get some Moo cards as your business card, because then you can showcase your art on the business card.
Good point. Love it.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking it would look better on an application or something that I'm more focused on one.
Yeah, again, I'm not a good career counselor. It might look better on an application. I'm going to keep trying to be a career counselor because I think you have to do what you love. You spend a lot of time at it. You better be loving it. How's that for career counseling? Yeah, thanks. See, look at me. I'm the young school thinker.
When you're applying to college now, they want you to be well-rounded.
Yeah?
They want you to,
Well, yeah.
they want you to have your foot in all these different things.
Right, but unfortunately, when you start to look at online job ads, they don't. They want you to be this. So, either create your own job or create your brand so that you can sell yourself into a job around the brand that you've created for yourself. Did I answer your question on I forgot what it was now. I got carried away.
So just kind of the do's and don'ts
Oh, do's and don'ts.
for building your brand. So I was thinking more of from a startup perspective.
Right,
This is the startup center.
right.
The majority of the people in here might have an idea for a product that they want to build.
Yeah.
But they have that idea, they need to build a brand around it. So, what are some, like I said, some of the do's and don'ts?
Yeah, okay, got it. I'm going to start with, forget about building a brand around it. That comes later. You don't need a brand to start with. You need a website. You need a message. You need to understand how your product solves a problem or helps someone. Understand that. Forget the brand to start with. Get your message. Understand your message. build your website, start social media, start whatever platform you need to start to get that message out there. That will help you bring in investors. That's where your focus has to be to start with. So if you need investors, that helps you bring in investors. If you need sales, that helps you generate your sales. Just don't forget about that delivery process thing. But, and I'm okay with, if you don't have your delivery process completely resolved, if you don't have product to delivery, you can still do some pre-sales out there. I'm okay with that in a B2B environment. Sorry, not consumer. But you have to have a plan for your delivery. So that is my start there. Start with your product, start with your message, then start with your delivery. That's 3 starts. That's easy. All right? That would be my advice. Don't worry about brand. Brand can come later. You can build a brand and, you know, if you don't, but you have a product that's a hit and a message that's a hit, it's okay. You know, do you need a pretty logo? Do you need to spend thousands of dollars on a pretty logo? Not really yet, as far as I'm concerned. So, you know, it's never hindered my business, and I don't have a logo. I need a logo. Darn it. Now I feel like I need a logo. No, I'm kidding. So, yeah, that would be my advice. Start with product, message, delivery. Worry about the rest once you've got those done. How's that? I think so too. I think those are 3 good starts. You know, I'll get in my car and go, oh, I should have told him. There's 5 things I should have told him to start with, but whatever those are, they're not coming to my mind. So those are 3 things I think sound pretty good to me. Okay, how are we doing?
I was wondering if you could tell us some resources that we can look into to learn to become a better salesperson or learn how to market ourselves.
Wow, resources. That is a good one. There is loads of sales training out there, and you can do that online. So sales is easier. In terms of creating a brand, you know, one of the resources I use when I feel like my brand is getting a little tired is LinkedIn. There are loads of people with amazing brands on LinkedIn. Just have a little fun and scroll through, and, you know, you'll find them. If you do a search on, you know, people with their own brand, I bet they'd come up. Maybe just on Google as opposed to on LinkedIn, but you can get to those people. Yeah, and that's kind of a nice way. Look at what they're doing. That's kind of a nice way to start, I would guess. That'd be my suggestion. Sometimes, you know, I do the same thing. I take a look and say, you know what, I'm feeling a little, it's not reflecting me very well anymore, so how do I change this up? So, yeah. Is that helpful? I'll think of others too. Again, when I get in my car, I'll go, oh, there's 5 different sites. I'm trying to think what else I've seen. I'm not coming up with anything else. Sorry. That's a good one though. I promise LinkedIn is a good place to look. Some people are doing some very creative things with their profiles. Just not me. I will though. I'm inspired.
I like what you said about trade shows and conferences, like that you shouldn't go to the ones that your competitors are going to. But since we're in a room with engineers, like the Mecca, the big one that everyone would love to go to is CES in Vegas each year. How can you not go to that? And then the other thing is, how do you find these obscure conferences where you're the big fish in that little pond? Like, how would you know where to go?
Yeah. Okay, so you've pointed out to me that perhaps you can't avoid, I mean, that's a trade show, and I think sometimes you have to look at trade shows as you do have to be there. You have to be taken seriously in your marketplace, and by being at that trade show, it demonstrates your seriousness about your marketplace and about your product and about your market. So yes, I can see that. I wouldn't necessarily exhibit, depending on where you are in your startup phase, you know, because exhibiting is extremely expensive at CES. So, you know, taking a look at it and saying, okay, this year I'm not going to exhibit. Sometimes there are cool little tricks, like for about a quarter of the money of exhibiting, you might be able to sponsor a cocktail function that you can invite only the people you want to attend. You know, I've done that where it was like a 50-person cocktail function. Way better value than having a booth. So explore other opportunities. Sometimes, something else I've done that's, you know, kind of crazy but creative is I've done company logoed cocktail napkins for the company that I'm helping to expand or launch. And I've just, you know, you do have to get approvals. Well, if you don't tell them I sent you, but I have actually paid to allow me to put the company branded cocktail napkins. Cocktail napkins cost nothing to have printed. You could print gazillions of them and you just put them out at the coffee break areas. Nice way to get your brand out there. It's not going to cost you the same amount that an exhibition booth will. So, you know, there are ways to play with that, so be creative about it. Your second question was about the obscure conferences. Man, that is, you have to do a lot of research. It's research. I'm sitting at my computer looking at, you know, what, this was, believe it, that conference was a permanent reservoir monitoring conference. These are the people who make the decisions on the technology that goes from the shore end or the technology that is surrounding an offshore oil and gas field. Who would know that? How did I happen upon that? I did a ton of research. And I said, okay, where are my buyers? What are they looking at today? They're looking at permanent reservoir monitoring. All right. So, you know, the guys at Global Marine thought I was a little bit crazy until I got them to that conference and they're like, everyone here is interested in what we're doing. Yeah, isn't that cool? Because they're all our purchasers. So yeah, it's research. It's simply research. Maybe a little intuition, but it's, you know, it's mostly research. Okay. I don't want to keep you too late. What time is it? Okay. Oh, wow. I said an hour, didn't I? All right. Is there anything else before I close this up? This table back here has been very quiet. Are you all happy? Okay. Any questions? See?
So if you have an innovative idea about some product, so how you can protect it same time you share it with people?
If you have IP on a product?
No. If you
An
have,
idea.
yeah,
Oh, how do you share it and protect it?
at the same time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but that's a limited share. If you want to build a brand around it, you can't do that. You don't, is my answer. You get whatever sort of patents or you get all of that put in place first. You can share that stuff with a non-disclosure agreement with an investor, but you can't share it with the public until you're ready. Of course, you know, there are plenty of people who are inventors who will also tell you that, you know, never hold back, just go. So, you know, you have to act quick if you're inventing something. If you've got a new product that you want to get out there, because, you know, someone will come up with something similar. So, you know, act fast, but yeah, you can't, I don't think you can really share it until you're ready to. Now, I will add, there are other considerations than just my quick off the top of my head. How easy or difficult is that product to reproduce? What are the barriers to market? You know, there are a lot of other things that as I think about it, have to be considered in terms of at what point do I share a product with the market. So if there are high barriers to entry, well, you can share your product with the market right away, right? As long as you know that you've got enough of a head start, you're okay with that. So yeah, I think, you know, logic, maybe a little intuition, go with those and see how you do on it. I personally, I'm working with a company that has some new products that are very interesting. And what I am doing is I'll get them out to the market very quickly, but first I'm putting into place website brochures, the collateral that I need for the legitimacy I require in order to bring those products to market. So each product is going to be a little bit different, I think, but that's my approach with this product in particular. And it is a B2B product, so if that gives you any indication. Okay? All right. Well, I want to thank you all for coming. Are we good? Thank you so much for coming, and thanks for your attention. It was a pleasure talking to all of you, and I hope it was informative and helpful. And I have included, oh, sorry, one of these. I have included my email address and phone number. If you have questions, and that is a pretty picture of Singapore, my city, and my golf swing, of course, you know, because. So please do feel free to contact me if you come up with questions, if you need a resource, if you just want to hear me sing. I know you're dying to hear me sing, aren't you? Go ahead, admit it. So, yeah, please do. Feel free to contact me. I will not be on email, just to warn you, if you're trying to get an immediate response. I won't be on email until probably mid next week because I'm going to be traveling a little bit, and I just won't be checking that email yet. But anyway, after mid next week, I will be attentive to it. Okay? All right, thank you.